Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms, and we've got a little bit of a winter storm coming through, and I kind of stress a little bit because it's snowing right now. It's going to continue snowing for the next few hours, but it's very light, and by tomorrow evening we're going to get a high temperature in the 40s, and all this is going to melt off. In the meantime, I've got a crew that works manufacturing a product up on the hill, and they need to be able to drive down this long driveway, up the hill, get parked, get turned around, and get out without sliding into each other or getting stuck or anything like that. So it doesn't really make sense to get the snowplow on the tractor and do all that. It's probably not even worth the time to put the spreader on the tractor. But I already have my Curtis fast cast spreader on the back of the four-wheeler ready to go. So I'm going to see if I can quickly spread rock salt across all this and get it thaw out and do that in the most efficient manner possible. So let's jump on the ATV and see if we can get this cleared up. All right, so this spreader, if you haven't already seen it, runs off of the battery on whatever you're hauling it with, which gives it versatility. I could put it on my truck if I wanted. If I had a larger area, say I wanted to do the road from here to the highway, which is half a mile or so, I could do that whole thing. But I'm not looking to do that. I just want to get the driveway done. So I'm going to use it on the four-wheeler here. In the first video where I was showing this, people were mentioning that it flexes quite a bit whenever you accelerate and suggested I use a ratchet strap. So I've run that along here to kind of hold it up. This has two functions that control it, of electrical switch right here that starts the impeller. And then I've got a cable here. If you're doing this on a regular basis, if you live up north and you're spreading salt quite a bit, you would mount this in your tractor so it's more stable. As it is, it's going to work just fine because I'm going to open it about halfway, 2/3 of the way, and just leave it like that. So let's see exactly how long this takes. I've come out here to get started. It is 10 minutes after 8, and if this wasn't already on here, I could put it on here in less than 10 minutes. So we're gonna say I started at 8 o'clock, see how long it takes to clear this. Then at the end of the day, I'll give you an after picture of how well it works. Okay, so I went down to the shed, got my 3 bags of ice. All this could have been done the night before, but I didn't plan it out that well. Anyway, then I had to come up to the shop, get gloves, a pair of scissors to cut this open. I'll probably put 1 bag in at a time and see if that makes a good routine to do 1 pass all the way down and back, see how full it is. Maybe do 1 bag for every trip down and back. I'm guessing maybe 5 bags for all the area I have rock, but we'll see. This thing spreads pretty heavy and I could turn that down, but salt's cheap. I'm gonna spread it pretty thick. As I look at this footage, I really didn't expect to be able to see where the salt was coming out, but something about the frame rate on the recording and the way the salt was coming out, it's makes kind of a cool effect that you can see these rings of salt coming out away from the spreader. And that tells me that it worked the majority of this trip. But I did have some issues getting the spreader to work evenly. But I'll explain that more as we go. With one bag, you see how far it is up to the shop. One bag, before I got down here, it filled in most of the way and stopped icing. So I may have to put in 2 bags at a time, or I would be frequently sifting that down. So you just saw me drive back in the garage to see if I could find something to keep my ears warm. The only thing I came up with was a helmet. Now you'll see I'm stopping here because the salt had stopped coming out of the chute, and I'm trying to figure out why and what I can do about it. I spent about the next 10 minutes trying to get the salt to continually dispense evenly, and finally figured out a solution. Okay, so you can see the majority of the driveway is actually clear, and then we have patches up here that are clear. That's where I was getting the hang of evenly distributing it. And the salt I'm using, I'll show you in a second, is kind of a wet, clumpy salt. It's a food grade salt meant for cattle, and it's not coming down to the bottom of the spreader the way an ice melt would. And that's one issue I had. The other is I had the feed too wide open, so it would empty out a hole really quick and then not be spreading, and then I would push it back down, and it just made for a patchy spread. Now, with that not open as far, I'm following behind and, you know, feeding that back down in. We're getting a nice clean distribution. So we've got most of the driveway good, but I need to come down here around the building. Okay, so this is really fine, like a powder, and it clumps up. See how I squeeze that and it's kind of holding its shape? So I think an ice melt or a rock salt would spread a little bit easier than this will. But let's finish it up and I'll show you what I'm having to do to keep it coming out. Okay, stop. Now see how this is so clumped? There's no reason that shouldn't just slide down. It's made that cavity. So I have to do that every so often. All right, go ahead and drive down. So I definitely want this to be a one-person job, but for today, my solution was to have someone else drive the four-wheeler, and then anytime it would stop salting, I would come over and knock the salt down. It's hard to do that from the seat because you can barely reach. Before the next storm, I'm going to get some different salt and some ice melt and see if that's what makes the difference. After getting all the areas where people park, we went ahead and got the path back to my back door. It even spread it onto the steps just directly from the broadcaster. Okay, I feel like that did a pretty good job. I appreciate you taking time to watch. I'll put more of our videos right here, and I'll see you next time.